I like that. Yeah. I like that waffle. Like, like the syrup only goes in one little container
Right.
and doesn't spill over to the other. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Dylan Callier. I'm a physical therapist, and welcome to the New Medical Nomads podcast, where I get to document my journey as a medical traveler, as well as interview other experts within the traveling field. Now, the rules for the traveling game are constantly changing, so anything you hear on this show should be for entertainment purposes only. This is not legal, financial, or medical advice. Enjoy the show and safe travels.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the New Medical Nomads podcast. My name is Dylan Callier, and today's episode is going to be with a speech therapist, Mr. Gabriel Hershberger. Gabriel, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're at right now, and kind of a little bit about your travel career so far?
Yeah, sure, man. Thanks, Dylan, first of all, for having me on your podcast. It's an honor. And a little about me. Yeah, I'm currently doing a home health assignment in southeastern PA, not too far from Gettysburg, Philadelphia, Baltimore. And before that, I was in Southern California in a real swanky area, Newport Beach, doing a SNF assignment there, skilled nursing facility. Before that, I was in NorCal and Oakland doing another SNF, and then before that, my first travel assignment was in the Poconos area of PA. I'm from PA, so I started off in PA, and not too far from home, so that I was able to try out travel therapy to see if it was my thing. And so I've done these 3 different SNF assignments, and then this home health assignment. And the reason why I switched over to home health is that because I had my last SNF assignment was like a little depressing in the way the building was run, and I wanted some fresh air. And so I told my recruiters, hey man, I need to change. I can't do this SNF thing. Give me something else. And I thought home health would be fun to try. And I've been doing this home health now. I think this is my 3rd week, and it's hard, but I'll tell you, the patients are a lot happier being at home, being somewhat independent still. And it's nice to see them in their environment. So, yeah, that's the real quick overview.
Very cool. So you're just coming from California. How was, I'm kind of going through signing up for California licensure now. How was the process for the speech therapy side of things?
So I think it took probably a little over a month, maybe even 6 weeks, because they required you to have like tell each state that you have a license. Any state that you've had a license before, I think you had to like send a letter to confirm that your license was in good standing and never revoked. So the more licenses you have, the longer that it takes for them to, like Indiana or Illinois or Iowa, like any place you've had it, that you have to send them money. And California State Board has to review your license as well. And that just all takes time for all those pieces of paper to arrive. I think that was the requirement, if I remember right. But yeah, other than that, it's just like another one. So yeah, just another state with bureaucracy. But give yourself a little bit of time though before you
Absolutely. This is I guess I submitted mine. It's been over 30 days now, and I give them a call, but they're a little bit behind with checking up on everything. So I'm glad I was given that heads up a little bit beforehand before I went ahead and, got closer to the deadline. So not stressed at all about it, but I'm really fortunate that somebody gave me a heads up.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like you're taking advantage of the freedom that kind of comes with travel therapy. Have you done home health before, or are you just now trying it out?
I did home health briefly while I was working in Iowa. I had a permanent job there, but since it was Iowa, it was really rural. And so it was a cool job where I had to do like everything, since I was the speech therapist for the entire area. So I was inpatient, outpatient, home health, and SNF. And so it gave me a little bit of chance to do everything. So, but this was the first time where this is all I've done is home health. And so it was just a taste before.
Okay. Got it. Can you describe, so we were kind of just talking before the show started, I've only witnessed speech therapy in the inpatient setting, so the acute setting there in a hospital. Can you kind of tell us what you've experienced in the SNF, and then also how that's differed from home health? And then also kind of when you're walking in as a travel therapy, what you're expected to do maybe when compared to just a typical salary permanent job?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that a couple of things. One, when you are walking in, when you're going to be a permanent employee, you tend to have a bit more training, like a bit more hand holding. They take care of you. They tell you about all your benefits. They tell you all of your information as a new employee, kind of welcome you, kind of that honeymoon period. And when I started, I actually got a lot more training in home care, which was a nice change. Sometimes I've had literally like a half hour of training when you go into SNFs, and that's like, they're just like, here's your caseload, go figure it out. I mean, it was like that. I mean, like literally, it was like a half hour, and then you're expected to go and treat. So so the home health was a little change. It was nice because it's a little bit more. There's a lot of different procedures. There was different software that I wasn't used to. I got to travel with another speech therapist and see how she went into people's homes and how she did speech therapy. So, but yeah, so the difference I think would be in the permanent positions, they tend to do a little bit more training for you, and when you're a traveler, you're often put into situations where they're already short-staffed, or they've been without a therapist for maybe a couple of weeks, and so there's just not a lot of resources for you to get any training. So you need to be able to at least do your discipline, be able to know how to do therapy, and then the rest of your energy and effort is going to be spent on learning the software, learning the tools that they use there, learning the processes and the staff that you're going to be working with, how referrals work, and the people that are checking your documentation for billing and coding and compliance and all that other stuff. So I found that also this in SNFs, they also have there's a lot of billing pressure. There's a lot of pressure on rug levels and making sure everybody is ultra high and staying really productive at whatever means possible. And so it puts a lot of pressure on therapists to do that, and that gets a little tiring and a little old. Home health, on the other hand, is a little bit different. There isn't quite the same sort of resource. Isn't that resource level utilization system in terms of PPS and reimbursement. And so when patients are ready to be discharged, you can just discharge them, and it's not really that big a deal with you. And currently, in my assignment, we've been really behind in our evaluations because I'm covering for maternity leave, and so she had her baby early, and so there's been a backlog of patients that we haven't evaluated, and that just wouldn't fly in the SNF. In a SNF environment, all the disciplines are there on the day one, and the rehab directors are kind of cracking the whip all the time. This has been my experience. So it's varied contract to contract. Some SNFs have been more patient focused, but in my limited experience, it has been a little bit more about reimbursement and less about patient care. That's the stark reality, and that might sound harsh, but I really believe that's the case. At least that's been my personal experience.
Yeah. No, I think the environment of where you work definitely has a big part in whether you're going to enjoy it or not. And there's definitely that feel within multiple settings of the healthcare professions. So, Gabriel, you're the first speech therapist on the show, so I'm really excited to have you. So appreciate you coming on. Are you able to travel as a traveling speech therapist straight out of school, or is there a time limit before you're able to make that jump?
Good question. You could travel as a CFY or clinical fellow for that first 9 months. It would be possible. However, it's going to be a little bit challenging. I know there's been there's been buildings that I've worked in the past where it's been pretty big, and we've actually had two other speech therapists that could have provided some supervision and guidance for you as you were learning how to still do speech therapy fresh out of grad school. Now, I've been in more situations, though, where there's not been a speech therapist around. And I think personally that it would be tough being put in those situations, because I know, like, there's been times where I've just had like the fast, really brief orientation and just go do your thing. And unless you were like number one or a rock star in your graduate school program, I think it could be a little challenging just to do your CFY first, right out of the gate during your first year traveling, because of the pressure. Now, some people maybe thrive under pressure, or the pressure doesn't get to them, or whatever, or they're maybe okay with doing some remote. I think a lot of travel companies offer like remote supervision, where they'll do like a call in or something like this, and that might be okay too. I'm skeptical, though. I'm just the kind of person that if I have a question, I'm gonna need it, and you're gonna have to kind of get it answered quickly. I can't wait to when my mentor is available to have our meeting or something like that. I'm gonna be in a situation where I'm gonna have to make a decision, and I'm not sure whether I should discharge or recert, or what type of goals I should have for this patient. So having a therapist in the building during your CFY could totally work. And maybe a traveler could have that situation, but I would really highly recommend, if you're going to do travel right away, like have a therapist in the building, and have your assignment be one of those situations where there's just a super large caseload, and that you just need a larger department. Don't be the only therapist in the building. It's going to be tough.
Got it. When, especially kind of taking this leap into the home health world, I know you've had a taste, so you have a little bit idea what you're getting into. Is there anything you use for that immediate answers while you're out on this assignment?
There is another therapist that's covering part of the county and another county over with her patients, and I'm covering like the eastern part of the county of York County, and so we work together. I can text her or call her when I have a question. She's helped me a lot getting to know the caseload. So, but I am out on my own for like 99% of the day. I'm out on my own. I'm driving to see patients, and there's no, and she's seeing patients too. So like in home health, you're in the field, so there's no real hand holding out there, and so. That's why I say you really got to know these speech therapy, because you got to use your other resources to really learn the other aspects of the job, the documentation, the processes, the people, the system I'm currently using right now really is terrible, not intuitive. And so you have to know exactly where to click, and there's no flow. A doesn't lead to B. A leads to a multiple choices of B through Z, and you just got to click the box, maybe M, for example, and like I have no idea that that's what the box that they need clicked, but I find out because I get messaged then like in a couple of days, hey Gabriel, this documentation is due. When is it going to get done? We need it like as of yesterday, and I'm always like, I'm trying. It's just frustrating, the software. So you can't be spending any time learning how to be a physical therapist, occupational therapist. And I've said that before now, but I just kind of like, I guess I'm reiterating where I stand on that.
Got it. When you are in those situations where maybe the documentation's falling behind or there's a little frustration, how are you received as a travel therapist? Are they pretty open about it? Are they really chill and relax, or can it be confrontational at times?
They really don't have a choice. I mean, you have to have the right attitude. That's key, I would say, in life, but also especially in travel therapy. You are walking into a situation where there are a lot of times a lot of fires that are going on, and you need to be able to put out some fires, but at the same time, it might be a blaze for a while, and it might take you a couple of weeks. I've told rehab directors straight up, like, look, man, like this caseload is a mess. And I'm just going to be honest with you, but you got to give me like at least a week. Give me a week and I'll get this fixed up. I will be productive. Everything will be no backlog in documentation. And you got to have confidence in your ability to put out those fires. And then and generally when I've gone into that with that attitude, they've always given me space. They'll be like, okay, I get it. Like you need some time. And I'm like, I appreciate what you're doing for us. Like, that's great. Let's just keep in touch. And so, yeah, it's worked out. And I'm super honest too. When I'm behind, which you generally are when you start an assignment, I'm just saying, I'm saying, hey, I'm struggling. I mean, I really am. And like, this is hard, but I don't let it like affect me. I don't take that home with me. I don't let that ruin my day. I don't let it affect my patient care. So I don't take it out on Bob, because I'm like feeling, because that's just not the right thing to do. You just kind of have to compartmentalize it. I just compartmentalize it. And I say, look, I am working my tail off to get this paperwork done. I'm really behind. I hate it as much as anybody else that hates it. And so like right now, I mean, I'm super behind and it's frustrating. It's killing me not having, not being caught up. And, but my supervisors kind of get it. Like I'm helping them out. They know that like without me as a traveler, they would be even worse off. So they'd be down a speech therapist or a physical therapist or occupational therapist, nurse. So if they're happy to have the help, and sure, they have pressure from their supervisors and regional directors and VPs and all that stuff. So I just like I try to keep it all in perspective, look at the bigger picture, and give them 110%, every day. Just, that's all you can do.
Got it. You were talking about being compartmentalized as a practitioner, and me and my current manager now, my friend, we're always talking about how if you're going to be in the health professions, you kind of need to be a waffle, to where you take these sections and you got to have your personal life over here and you have your professional life over here and patient care is over here, and everything has its own little square in the waffle. And you don't want to turn into spaghetti where everything's kind of entangled into each other and you're struggling with everything.
I like that. Yeah. I like that waffle. Like, like the syrup only goes in one little container.
Right.
And doesn't spill over to the other. Yeah.
the old Lego My Ego, which is not a sponsor.
But we welcome them.
So, Gabriel, how long have you been traveling now?
I've been traveling now just a year.
Just a year.
Just a year. Cool. This is my 4th assignment.
Yeah.
So,
is there any?
I've taken some time off between assignments too. I know some try to work as much as possible and are like, they're going for like financial freedom or that kind of thing, and just banking all kinds of money or paying off the student loans, which is great and fantastic. I use it a little bit more towards like where I take some time off, enjoy some traveling, some vacation, catching up with some friends, and then working hard again, and just managing, like not trying to get out of debt at a super fast pace or anything. Just trying to enjoy the life as possible and take time off between assignments. That's one of the nicest things I like about travel therapy is I like the contracts and I like being able to negotiate. And it's why I haven't jumped into a school contract yet. I think I will soon, but school contracts generally are for the entire school year, whereas medical contracts tend to be 3 months, 13 weeks.
Okay.
So.
Got it. Yeah, I think it all kind of talking about your why and what's the reason behind your reason for jumping in this boat. So if it's financial, you have a great opportunity there. But if you're also looking to just see the States and have that freedom and taking off and going off on those adventures, you have that opportunity too. It's really just the journey is what you make it.
Yeah, I would say that your why is important in anything you do in your life. Like if you're trying to lose weight, like think of that why. Is it for your health? Is it to live a long life for your kids or your spouse, your family? If that's your reason for your why, I think you're much better off in actually probably losing the weight than if it is just to have the beach body, which is there's nothing wrong with that. but I'm saying like the why is a big factor when you do anything in life.
Absolutely. It's that emotional side of it. One of my favorite questions to ask patients who are coming in with chronic pain, they say, oh, I've been dealing with this back pain for 15 years. My question is always, well, what changed? What happened that all of a sudden 15 years was long enough, you couldn't take it anymore, and you're coming in to see me now? And usually it's family related. So I have a grandkid and I couldn't pick them up, or I was wanting to go to the park with the rest of my family. We're supposed to go to Six Flags or something like that. Also not a sponsor. And they couldn't keep up, or maybe a baseball game and they couldn't do the stairs. And so something happened, again, for the why, for the emotional side of things. And that's why they're in. And once you are able to connect with that, it is so much better setting goals and getting them in and building rapport and getting compliance for them coming into the clinic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you've been in the travel game for a year. Is there anything that you know now that you wish you would have known a year ago?
Oh, sure. Definitely. I mean, I think I've watched your other podcast before, and I've seen your guests talk about like the bill rates and negotiation a little bit too. And that's one thing that I've learned. Like I was saying before, I really kind of got burned out of the skilled nursing facilities, and I was on vacation, and I just told my recruiters, you know what, call me in a month. I'm like, I can't do it. Really, I just emotionally, I cannot go and do that. So I really wasn't in a hurry. And so I was like waiting for that offer, waiting for that financial piece, that and excitement, or that new location. And for me, it was like, I wasn't going to go back to work unless I got the kind of reimbursement and income that I really wanted out of the contract. So I negotiated the crap out of this contract because I was really kind of like, you know what? I don't need this as much as you need me. And so so that's my new attitude is like that's like a super powerful negotiating strategy. Mm-hmm. If you need that job, if you need that place because you're like so you can't afford your car payment and your student loans and your rent, like you're already in like a power of weakness and you're not in that good power. But if you can just pass and pass on the offer, then they're going to be like, so how much money would it take for you to take this assignment? And you can then be like, I'll take $300 more per week. Thank you very much.
Got it.
And then they'll be like, okay, well, we can do $100 more. And I was like, okay, how about $200 more? And they'll be like, how about $150? You know, and they'll be like, all right, let's make that work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wish I knew that. Now I know.
Yeah. I've kind of seen that with the more experienced therapists and travelers that I've spoken to as well. They get very much more aggressive, they get a lot more aggressive with their contracts. And kind of, just having a more solid line with what they're willing to take now that they have a couple experience and they know like what's their bare minimum, what's their goal.
Yeah. I'd also say that too, you know, having like a 30-day notice, you can negotiate that into your contract, because if you're finding your own housing and 2 weeks, and if you have a 2-week notice and you get your contract canceled, then if your roommate's not cool, your landlord's not cool, you can be in a situation where like you maybe owe them money or you don't get your deposit back. So us having like a 30-day notice is super critical to build that into your contract.
Got it.
Things like that. So they're not going to like it, but you got to do it for yourself.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
When you negotiate that 30-day notice, does that work both ways? So you would have to give them a 30-day notice as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm not about to I don't break contracts. I mean, maybe I would someday, but if it was like a dire situation, but like, if I'm going to do the contract, I'm going to do the contract. It's always that. They're always the ones that are breaking the contract on you because you're expensive as a traveler.
I see.
So it's much cheaper and advantageous to hire a permanent therapist. So they're going to keep trying to find that permanent employee. So another fast fact, I don't know, if is like I've learned that the more desirable the location. So for example, like I was in Newport Beach, Southern California, beautiful. Like every day I'm going by the beach. I mean, it was insane. But what that meant is that my job was always on the line, and it was I had to fight to keep my job.
Wow.
I literally had to have heart-to-heart conversations with the rehab director multiple times to say, I'm going to finish this contract, and the reason why is because I am the best speech therapist you've ever had. I mean, I had to use all the negotiation power I could. Yeah. Now, on the flip side, if you work a contract in the middle of nowhere, in North Dakota or wherever, you have pretty good security that you're going to be able to do your whole contract, and you can kind of relax and don't worry about, being on edge that your contract could be canceled. So I didn't know that starting out, but it's one thing I've learned along the way.
Yeah, very cool. Very good information. So I'm getting a trend here about your lifestyle and kind of going to new destinations and things like that. When you're at a new place and you're still building those relationships and kind of making those connections, those first 2 weeks where you really don't know anybody, can you give us a picture of what's that like when you go to a new location?
Well, I want to be able to answer that question could I would bounce it back to you and ask you to be more specific,
is there any routines that you've had in the past year every time you go to a new place that you kind of fall back on during those initial weeks where you're more into solitude and kind of being an introvert? If you tend to go on hikes, or if you tend to kind of find local groups within the community to try and connect with?
I think what I've done is, for one, I've had roommates, and I'll ask my roommates sort of like the things to do, places to go. So when I'm trying to look for something to do on the weekend. One of my recent hacks, which I think is a lot of fun, and is the app Snapchat.
Yeah.
So if you pinch, you can zoom into this heat map, and you can see what other people are snapping publicly around you. There'll be these little hot spots, right? Are you with me so far?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have found that this is definitely not the intended purpose of Snapchat, but it is a really interesting way to discover where people are at on the weekends, what they're doing, and how to find I didn't know that there was this wine festival over here. Oh, I didn't know that there was this car show over here. Okay, so there's this going on. There's this concert. And so a lot of times, a lot of these small towns, rural areas, they don't publish or market things very well at all. And so I found this to be one of the coolest hacks that I've discovered recently. And I continue to use it, and I think it's really interesting. So I also have gone to Facebook. I've searched their events. I've searched locally to see what events are going on around me within a 25-mile radius. That's also been kind of a way to discover some things to do. And of course, anytime there's an entertainment magazine, I find it's I have to work a lot harder in the rural areas to find things to do. But, in the urban settings, it's a piece of cake. There's so much opportunities everywhere. It's more of rural areas, it's kind of word of mouth. And so you're new to that community. And so you have no network there at all. So
absolutely,
there's stuff out there, but you just got to dig. Yeah.
I think one of the advantages of being in the healthcare field is that you get to ask your patients. And once they find out that you're a contract worker where you're kind of bouncing around, they usually get really interested. I knew that was the case when I was a student, kind of bouncing around. They're like, oh, you're new to the area, and they want to show off and kind of show off their town, their home place, and especially for they're from the rural areas, because they're super proud of where they're from. But they give you they give you a lot of really interesting suggestions on where to go. I've been told to go to, which I wouldn't have found otherwise, a classic show automobile museum. And that was really cool. It was 3 stories, and in the middle, it almost looked like one of the old Hot Wheels car placements where you put them in the slots, and then you could kind of close it.
Oh, cool.
And so yeah, it was pretty neat. I'm trying to think of some other. Heard about a Greek festival in one of my first clinicals. Again, would have never found it. It was right down the road, which was awesome. But just really easy to talk to and a really interesting way to start conversation with your patients as a traveler.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now it's probably a little easier for you because sometimes my patients have communication difficulties.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Or memory problems. It just doesn't work. But yeah. Anyway, I'm always jealous of patients, of physical therapy patients, because I'm like, oh my gosh, they just like have a conversation, and whereas my patients are it's a struggle.
I completely dropped the ball on that one.
No, it's okay. You would never think about that. These are the subtleties in our disciplines.
Absolutely. When I was in the ICU working for 10 weeks as a student, I did get some experience with that, where they're intubated, trying to sit them up, where they're not able to talk or communicate as well. Usually, if they're able to sit up, they could write a little bit, so that was a little easier. But I definitely got the taste of having trouble communicating with the patients, and depending on your setting and who your CI was and who was kind of watching over you, some of them had really good tips on how to handle that, and some of them really didn't. So you kind of just throw it in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, challenging.
Did you have any other hacks that you've been using at the locations that you wanted to talk about?
Other hacks, like, I think just talking to people, like whenever, I always use that kind of the newbie card, like whenever I'm like anywhere, that first couple of weeks, and I might be able to use it for months. I don't know, but it usually tapers off. But like when I'm at the grocery store, they'll always be like, hey, do you have a Giant card or whatever? Because that's the name of the grocery store. And they're like, I'm like, no, I just moved to the area yesterday. And they're always like shocked, like, what? I'm like, yeah. So, and I'm like, what is there to do around here? And then the teller, the cashier, like the person bagging groceries will always tell you something. Like they want to help you, say something about their area. Like, oh, well, have you been to Hershey Park? And I'm like, no, I think I'll go there sometime. Thanks so much. Have a great day. And I'd be, it's just like those little things. Like you can always be striking up a conversation with somebody, like even somebody who doesn't want to talk to you. They'll be like, just go down to this barn and take a left, and then go down to the old ice cream stand, take the right. I'm like, well, I'm not from here. I don't really know where the barn is or the ice cream shop is. And they're like, what do you mean you're not from around here? I'm like, well, I'm a traveler. I'm like, I do like this. I explain it and everything. And then they're like, oh, interesting. And then they'll like say, okay, well, they'll be more specific in how they explain themselves, and they won't assume anything. Everybody just assumes that you're from the area. Yeah. And so that's a fun way too. And like people, strike up conversations with people. Tell them that you're new to the area, and like people will bend over backwards to help you. And people like to recommend things. It's like everybody has like a recommendation of their favorite place to eat. So like if I want to know where a good place to eat is, I'll just straight up ask. I'm like, I like the other day I was like, okay, I wanted some excitement. I was like, where is like the nicest place to eat downtown that has people around? And I got like the name of like a couple of places, and I was like, great, I'm going there right now. And I just went there, straight there, and I had an awesome dinner. I had to talk to a bunch of people, and so like you can either Google that, and that's fine. That works for me all the time. And I'll just go for figure it out, like best places to eat. But then sometimes just asking somebody too is fun. So
got it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Hey guys. So thankfully, Gabriel was able to spend so much time with this interview that we actually had to break up the episode into 2 parts. So this is the end of part 1. If you want to catch the next part, it will be launching in a week. And Gabriel is going to give his step-by-step process on how to find housing using Craigslist, not only safely, but also avoiding scams. So catch it on the New Medical Nomads podcast Facebook group, or if you can't wait and you want to see that now, find it available on YouTube. Also, we do have a group online. If you'd like to join us or have any questions, the New Medical Nomads group on Facebook. Feel free to join. And as always, if you're enjoying the show, please show us some love, give us a rating, give us a follow. It greatly helps us get our message out. And I appreciate it so very much. Thank you guys. And y'all have a very good day.